Hello everybody, Debbie here from the Magpie Makery. I've made this wall art with thrifted beads and embroidery floss, so do stick around to see how it was done. Right, so before we get started with today's project, I just wanted to share with you where I got some of the beads that I'm going to be using. I got them from my thrift store, the local charity shops that I go to. And these are a nice glass bead. Now, how can you tell that? Well, if you bang that bead there on your tooth, you will feel it be quite solid and know it's glass. Obviously, you can take a wet wipe, give it a wipe before you do that. I also got these bigger beads there. This was £2, for instance. So, I mean, yeah, kind of total bargain. Look how many beads I've got on there. So I'm going to be decanting these in a moment. Along with that, I got these lovely gold beads. They're very big. But because I knew I wanted to do a honeybee, I mean, that I'd have got them anyway for £1. Lovely. There was also a very small little box of black seed beads, so I picked those up. Now, these are actually what I already had in my crafting stash, because I've been crafting quite a while now. I've got some lovely gold beads. So, here's my template. Let's get going. Okay, so beads are decanted. Now, I do have a very nice piece of cloth. It's really white at the moment. It's cotton, but it's got like a linen look to it. But the good thing about it is that it's pretty see-through. So I'm not sure if the camera's picking this up, but I can see that template through here. And so I think it's going to be quite easy for me to just trace the outline here. Other thing I could do is, without the legs, cut this template out around here, and then just trace it onto the background that you want to use. Now, because I'm going to make a nice piece of wall art with this and frame it, but if we wanted to make a smaller version, I'm sort of thinking if we had 50% of this size, we could make a lovely brooch that you could wear as well, or hair clip to put in your hair. Now, the only thing is with this, for me, this is a bit too white, and I'm really looking for more of a taupey colour. So I'm going to go and tea stain this and crinkle it up in a certain way and put it in the cup and get sort of that like more grungy look on it. So I'll show you what I'm going to do there. Right, so this is a brewed tea, and I've brewed it in a small vessel. It's actually like an espresso cup coffee, deliberately because I want to scrunch my fabric. And hopefully we're going to get different types of colour in there, a bit like old parchment, that type of thing I was thinking. Obviously, I've let the tea cool. Okay, so I am just going to put that in there and leave that for about 30 minutes, and then we'll see what it's like. Hi everybody, so I am back. The fabric has been, what am I trying to say? It's been washed through, rinsed out and dried, and I've given it an iron, and I'm very pleased with the old parchmenty type look that I've managed to get out of that fabric. Very happy with that, and this is what I was actually going for. So here's our template again, which will be in the middle of this, and it is quite a large piece of fabric, and that's because it's always good to give yourself a better surface to work from, as large as possible. I want to go and put it in an embroidery hoop, such as this. Obviously, it'll be in the middle, and the bee we'll put in the middle. Now, I've purchased this. It's not an upcycle. I have purchased this, and it is hard plastic that looks like wood. And then it's got a little bit of a holder as well that looks lovely. So what you can do embroider onto it, bead onto it, do what you need to do to make your wall art, and then you'll just hang it up with this lovely vintage looking piece. So I loved that, and it is something that I am going to use again and again. If I wanted to change up my wall art, I simply take the bee out, put the bee into storage, and come back and put something else in. So I've got that. I've made that purchase because it's going to be a long-term thing. I'm going to slip the bee underneath, and I actually can see through still very well. I don't know if you can see that on camera. I think you can. So let's just get you straight. There we are. I have got a water-soluble pen, but equally you could go in with a pencil, I think. This is a water-soluble fabric pen that I've got, and I am literally going to just start outlining. There's a bit of a leg there, and it doesn't have to be super accurate, but we do want the outline because I'm going to be embroidering, stitching and beading, and that is my plan. Let's have a look. Not too sure. Oh yes, it was a little bump, wasn't it? That's good. Here we are. It's good. Another leg there and a wing. Now if I do go wrong, I can soak this in water. And there we go. But my stitching is going to be on the outside of this outline that I'm doing here. So I need well, as accurate as possible, but it doesn't have to be that accurate. Where's that nice round? There's my nice round bit for my bead. Anyway, you get the idea. I can just check slightly. Yeah, we're doing good. Right, I'm going to outline my bee and I'll be back with you. Okay, I have managed to get my fabric into the frame. It took a while, I'm not going to lie. I didn't want to show you me faffing around with it too much, but it takes a little while. But I've now got it right in the centre, how I want it, and it's taut. And I've got some of my embroidery flosses out. I've not really done much embroidery, gonna admit. I've been a big cross stitcher in the past, which is why I have got a lot of threads. I'm using the black. The black I'm using is Anchor 403. And I found this in the thrift store, in the charity shop, 20 pence each. And I just picked them all up. Why wouldn't you? It's nice stuff. I have also got this old gold colour. Now that's a DMC thread 729, and I have had that for quite a while, and that's going to go nicely as well, I think. So we've got my black, I've got my gold, I've got my beads, I've got a small tapestry needle to do the embroidery. For beading, I'll be using a smaller needle that I just have in my stash. So let the fun begin. So here is where we are at. We have finished the body. I'm quite pleased with that. So the wings. Now obviously the legs, we can go for black. I've got to think about these wings, what will stand out. I don't just want to go for bright white, but I do have, look, yeah, this cream. It's like an off-white, very creamy white. And then I've got this sort of grungy colour as well for outlining it. I think that might be good for the wings. I don't really have any beads, I don't think, for the wings, but I'll have a look. So I'm thinking I'm probably going to do an outline and then just some satin stitch in the various sections. But yeah, happy. Overall, very happy. So at this point I have finished the wings, the outlines, and I'm moving on to the legs. Now I've got 3 strands of floss, black floss, and I'm doing a back stitch. But when I come to the part here where it's a little bit thicker, I'm going to go over that a few times. As you can see, I ended up cutting out that template. That's a good way of doing it as well, and I'm going to show you that in a moment. So this bit here is a bit thicker, so I'm going to go over it a few times just until I got sort of part of that leg that I like the look of. There we go. Back into the same point. So it's getting a little bit thicker now. That's it. Okay, let's put in where it bends up a little. There we go. So I'm thickening it up, but I am going back in to exactly the same place at the bottom as well, so that it just gets nice and thick. It looks like another digit then, doesn't it? Which, there you go. So now I'm moved on to using the off-white, the creamy floss, and I'm using 3 strands together. And I'm actually now doing a long and short stitch to fill in these parts of the wings. It's coming out with a really nice texture. I did start with satin stitch, but it wasn't looking quite right, so I pulled that out. And I'm now just working on each section with some long and short stitch. Everybody, I am back and I'm finished. Now what I have done is take my bee obviously out of the other frame. It was too big, unfortunately, and it just looked a little bit lost. You'll notice that there's no blue lines anymore. All I did was actually get quite a damp towel and dab it around, and the blue just disappeared, which is wonderful. That's its job. I've got several embroidery frames, so I found one that was of the right size, which is excellent. And finished him off a little bit. I wanted to put a little bit of a boho feel, you know, country type feel. So I had a nice piece of lace that I put on the bottom, and then I had some little flowers in my stash that I put on. So, you know, this project is really about upcycling what you've got. So, you know, if you want to, you could just, obviously you could have just left it, wasn't an issue, but I just wanted to give it a little bit more interest. So here's my beautiful little bee, honeybee, beading and embroidery. It's going to hang on the wall now, and I'm very, very pleased with it. So thanks for watching, guys. I do hope you got some inspiration out of this one. I hope you find some lovely thrifted beads for yourself and maybe make a project. And I'd like to hear about that. Let me know in the comments if you're making one. As always, thank you so much for watching us from the Magpie Makery. Please do subscribe and like, because we'll be bringing you lots more content. Thank you, and take